Welcome, and thank you for joining me on this gentle exploration into one of life's most enduring mysteries, the secret of longevity. As you settle into a comfortable position, perhaps lying back, eyes softly closed, allow the steady rhythm of raindrops to cradle your thoughts. With each patter against a distant window pane, feel your breathing deepen, your muscles unwind, and your mind drift toward curiosity and calm alike. Tonight, we embark on a measured journey through time, science, and the lived experiences of those who have walked this earth longer than most. We will move at an unhurried pace, offering vivid snapshots of science and history that illustrate not only how long lives have been lived, but why some lives stretch so gracefully beyond the familiar span. Along the way, you may notice the scent of fresh rain in your mind's eye, or imagine the gentle hush of a mist-shrouded forest images that, like our facts and stories, are meant to soothe and guide you toward the brink of sleep. Each segment ahead is designed as a soft chapter in our narrative, a calm, yet thorough, deep dive into the facets of longevity. We begin by looking inward at the biology that underpins lifespan, before drifting outward to cultural practices, environmental influences, and the remarkable people known as Blue Zone centenarians. At the close of our voyage, you will be invited to reflect on these insights, perhaps pondering the comfort of your own modern world compared to days gone by. So, as the rain continues its gentle song, let us turn our attention to the very building blocks of life: cells, molecules, and the remarkable processes that determine how long we may live. Imagine, if you will, a single cell, a tiny pulsating universe, no larger than a micrometer. Within its delicate membrane glimmers a nucleus, home to your genetic blueprint, strings of DNA that both promise life and whisper the limits of mortality. It is here, at this microscopic crossroads, that our story of longevity begins. At the heart of cellular aging lies a modest structure called the telomere. Picture these as the plastic tips at the end of a shoelace, protecting vital strands of DNA from fraying. With each division a quiet, rhythmic dance in which one cell becomes two telomeres, shortened just a fraction. A subtle erosion that accumulates over decades. When they grow too short, the cell receives a gentle but irrevocable instruction to stop dividing and enter a state of rest or This, in essence, is one of the body's natural brakes on runaway growth. Yet it also contributes to the gradual decline we recognize as aging now. Let your awareness drift to the enzyme telomerase, present in certain cells, notably those of our reproductive and stem cell lineages. Telomerase can rebuild telomeres, adding back those protective caps and granting cells a kind of extended life. Though this process holds promise for longevity, it is tightly regulated. Too much telomerase activity in the wrong setting can lead to uncontrolled cell growth, cancer's fervent engine. Thus, nature maintains a delicate balance, safeguarding against both premature aging and unrestrained proliferation. Moving beyond telomeres, consider the role of mitochondria, the cell's powerhouses. Imagine them as tiny turbines, burning fuel to produce the energy currency known as ATP. With time, these turbines accumulate wear, tiny faults in their inner membranes, slight leaks of reactive oxygen species, molecules that can damage proteins, and DNA. This phenomenon, known as oxidative stress, is akin to rust forming on the blades of a finely tuned engine. Researchers have long studied antioxidants, compounds that neutralize these reactive species in hopes of slowing this rusting process and preserving mitochondrial function. Drift now into the bloodstream, where hormones orchestrate a symphony of regeneration and repair. Growth hormone, for instance, peaks in youth and wanes as decades pass, influencing muscle mass, bone density, and even skin elasticity. Likewise, insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1, has been linked to both longevity and disease susceptibility, depending on its levels. In animal studies, modest reductions in IGF-1 signaling have led to striking extensions of life, suggesting that sometimes less can be more. Throughout our bodies, autophagy quietly performs its essential housekeeping role, from the Greek for self-feeding. Autophagy describes a process whereby damaged cellular components are wrapped in membranes and sent to be recycled. Picture a gentle yet efficient recycling plant, sorting out worn-out parts so new ones may be fashioned. encouraging autophagy whether through intermittent fasting, caloric moderation, or other interventions, has emerged as a promising avenue to promote cellular health and, by extension, longevity. As you breathe in rhythm with the rain, reflect on how these processes weave together. Telomeres shortening like silken threads, mitochondria whispering with each ATP spark, hormones flowing like a measured river, and autophagy clearing the way for renewal. Each mechanism carries its own gentle complexity. Yet together they form the quiet architecture of life's span. Now, allow these scientific vistas to settle as you drift further into ease. Soon, we will emerge from the cellular realm and explore the celebrated blue zones, places where communities naturally foster longer lives. But for now, rest in the knowledge that your own body holds these marvelous designs, humming softly beneath the surface of awareness, as we leave behind the microscopic landscapes of our cells. Imagine stepping into a sunlit village perched on a rugged hillside. The air is warm, carrying the faint aroma of wild herbs and sea spray. Here, among olive groves and ancient stone houses, you enter a place scientists have come to call a blue zone, one of the rare corners of Earth where people live not only long lives, but vibrant ones. First picture Okinawa, Japan, close your eyes and see the narrow streets lined with hibiscus and bougainvillea. There blossoms a tapestry of reds and pinks. In neighborhood gathering spots called elderly friends meet daily, sharing tea sweetened with a touch of honey and slices of bitter gourd. Their laughter drifts into the breeze, a soft melody that accompanies easy conversation. Here, social bonds are as vital as any vitamin. Lifelong friendships sustain a sense of purpose that Okinawans call ikigai. Now, drift across the Pacific to Sardinia, Italy, where shepherds traverse rolling pastures dotted with wild thyme and lavender. The distant bleat of goats mingles with the hum of cicadas under a cobalt sky. Meals are modest whole-grain bread dipped in extra virgin olive, oil beans, simmered with rosemary, and a glass of locally produced red wine, sipped slowly. Family gatherings often stretch into the evening, their voices rising and falling like a gentle tide. In Sardinia, respect for elders is woven into daily life. Grandparents are caregivers and storytellers, keeping traditions alive with every tale. Shift your mind to Nicoya, Costa Rica, where limestone hills meet a turquoise sea. Imagine walking along dusty paths, shaded by cattle egrets and guava trees, the earth warm beneath your sandals. Residents rise with the sun, tending to small plots of beans, squash, and maize foods rich in fiber and gentle on digestion. Water flows from local springs, high in calcium and magnesium, fortifying bones and hearts alike. Here, a sense of purpose plan, DeVito propels people forward, even past their 100th birthdays. Finally, consider Icaria, Greece, an island draped in silver-green olive trees and crowned with lavender-blue horizons. In seaside hamlets, neighbors drop by unannounced, bearing goat's milk cheese or honeycomb fresh from the hive. Long siestas in the afternoon follow simple lunches of wild greens and chickpeas. In Icarian dialect, there's a phrase, to dip your feet in the sea, a reminder to savor life's small pleasures and slow the pace of every day. Across these diverse regions, several gentle patterns emerge like threads in a woven cloth. People eat predominantly plant-based diets, centered on vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, with meat reserved for special occasions, rare treats rather than staples. They remain moderately active, not through structured workouts, but via daily routines, gardening, walking to visit friends, tending livestock, or simply caring for the home. Social interaction, family meals, community gatherings, shared celebrations forms an emotional safety net, buffering stress and fostering a sense of belonging. Consider also their relationship with time and rest. In blue zones, the pace of life allows for midday breaks, short rests or naps that refresh the body's systems and lower stress hormones. Even the architecture encourages movement and pause, staircases leading to rooftop terraces, communal squares shaded by ancient trees, and benches placed along pathways for quiet reflection. As the rain's rhythm continues to ease your thoughts, reflect on how these lifestyle elements interplay. Nourishment from simple, earth-grown foods, easeful physical activity woven into daily chores, meaningful connections that span generations, and a reverence for rest that honors the body's need for pause. Each factor softens the edges of aging, creating an environment where longevity is not merely a biological possibility, but a lived reality. So tonight, as the rain continues to fall in its soft, persistent way, you may find yourself breathing a little easier, knowing that the world outside your window is not separate from you, but speaking to you, always, in a language older than words. Imagine a bowl of soup. Simple, steaming, aromatic steam, rising in slow spirals that carry with them the scent of onion, garlic, and a sprig of rosemary. Now imagine who prepared it. A mother, a grandfather, perhaps you, in the quiet of your kitchen, hands moving in time with remembered gestures. Food, more than fuel, is a story, a quiet, edible language passed down from hands to mouths, from soil to soul. In every culture where people live longest, food is not treated as convenience, or as punishment, or even as medicine. It is treated as culture, as ceremony, and as connection. What's striking is that this way of eating, slow, social, seasonal, also happens to support the body's ability to live not only longer, but better. Let us begin with something quite small. A bean. In blue zones such as Okinawa, Loma Linda, and Nicoya, beans are eaten nearly every day. Black beans, lentils, soybeans, chickpeas, and more. These humble ingredients, rich in fiber, protein, and resistant starches, feed the microbiome, stabilize blood sugar, and reduce inflammation. But they also slow the meal down. A stew made with beans simmers for hours. It invites waiting. And then there's vegetables, freshly picked and simply prepared. Leafy greens, bitter herbs, starchy roots, and wild edibles form the base of most traditional longevity diets. In Acaria hort, wild greens like dandelion and chicory are boiled and served with olive oil and lemon. In Sardinia, minestrone soup bubbles with zucchini, fennel, and carrots. These meals are not glamorous. They are familiar, seasonal, and full of history. Modern nutritional science confirms what these traditions long intuited. Diets rich in plant-based diversity are linked to lower risk of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and dementia. Fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Polyphenols found in dark berries, green tea, olive oil, reduce oxidative stress. Whole grains regulate insulin. Omega-3 south in walnuts and flax seeds support the brain. But in long-lived communities, it's not only what is eaten, it is how food is approached. Picture a table not large, but well-worn, scattered with breadcrumbs and olive pits. Around it a family. No screens, no rush. A meal begins with a prayer, or a toast. A pot is passed slowly from one hand to another. The conversation meanders, quiet laughter rises, and every person is accounted for. This is eating as rhythm, not transaction. In contrast, modern eating patterns, especially in industrialized nations, are often hurried, distracted, and disconnected. Meals are skipped or eaten in front of glowing screens. Food is packaged, processed, and optimized for speed. The result is not only a loss of nutrition, but a loss of relationship to the food itself, and to one another. This matters, because the nervous system eats too. When we eat quickly or while stressed, the body remains in a sympathetic or fight-or-flight state. Digestion slows. Nutrient absorption is impaired. Blood sugar spikes. But when meals are taken slowly, in community, or in calm solitude, the parasympathetic system, rest and digest, activates, the body softens, the gut works efficiently. The food is received not as threat, but as gift. There is another key principle found in long-lived cultures: eating until satisfied, not stuffed. In Okinawa, there's a phrase, harahachi bua, gentle reminder to stop eating when one is about 80% full. This habit of mild caloric restriction is not deprivation. It is disciplined ease, an honoring of satiety before indulgence. Caloric moderation, especially without malnutrition, has been shown in countless animal and human studies to extend lifespan, reduce incidence of disease, and support cellular repair through processes such as autophagy. where the body clears out damaged cells and recycles their components. But more importantly, eating lightly feels lighter, less fatigued, more in tune. Now consider fasting, another time-honored tradition. In many faiths and traditional societies, fasting is seasonal or spiritual, a day of water and reflection. A sunset to sunrise pause, a meal skipped in honor of the departed. These rhythms give the digestive system time to rest. They allow insulin levels to normalize. They may even trigger longevity pathways, such as AMPK activation, which encourages metabolic efficiency. But again, in these cultures, fasting is never forced or sold as a hack. It is woven into the fabric of slowness. It is not about restriction. It is about space. Let us now return to the table, this time to the ingredients themselves. In Sardinia and Icaria, the use of herbs is prolific. Not just basil and parsley, but wild oregano, thyme, marjoram, sage, rosemary, rich in compounds that protect the heart, cleanse the blood, soothe the stomach. A single sprig of rosemary, placed in hot water, becomes a longevity tonic. In Okinawa, turmeric is steeped in tea. In Nicoya, lime and chili pepper are added to nearly every dish. These ingredients not only flavor the meal, they protect the eater. They are cultural pharmacopoeias, handed down with memory and meaning. And what of meat? In most blue zones it is eaten rarely, often as a garnish, rather than a centerpiece, used to flavor beans, stews, and soups. A single chicken or goat may stretch across many meals, often served during festivals or communal celebrations. This moderation not only conserves resources, but reduces the saturated fat and growth factor intake associated with accelerated aging and chronic disease. Now imagine the ritual of tea. In Icaria, elders gather each afternoon over sage or chamomile. In Okinawa, jasmine green tea is sipped slowly throughout the day. These infusions do more than hydrate. They provide antioxidants, lower blood pressure, and invite pause, a few moments where nothing is asked of the body except to hold a warm cup and breathe. Deserts, too, are not absent, but they are rare and often seasonal. Fresh figs, honey over yogurt, a slice of cake shared on a birthday. The sweetness lies not only in the sugar, but in the occasion. And because it is special, it is savored. In all of this, one pattern emerges. Food is not isolated from life. It is life, and its quality depends not just on nutrients, but on ritual, rhythm, and relationship. Let us end this long, slow meal with a moment of gratitude. Not performative, not forced, just quiet appreciation. For the hands that grew the food, for the weather that ripened it, for the body that receives it, and for the centuries of memory that brought each flavor to your tongue. Tonight, as the rain hushes the world outside, think of your own next meal. What will you eat slowly? What will you prepare with intention? What might you share? Know this: to nourish yourself, regularly and with care, is not only to feed your body, is to whisper to your cells, I am here. I choose to remain. Imagine a room where laughter lingers like incense. Not loud, forced laughter, but the kind that begins gently, builds with each look, each shared memory, until it warms the face and lifts the heart. Perhaps you've been there, at a dinner table, surrounded by stories, or beside a dear friend, whose expression alone could send you into helpless mirth. In that moment, time slows. Tension lifts. The body, quite literally, lets go. In the study of longevity, laughter often seems too soft, a subject to merit much attention. And yet, a growing body of scientific research suggests that humor and joy are not mere byproducts of good health. They are contributors to it, and perhaps even quiet architects of a longer, richer life. Let us begin not with data, but with a feeling. Recall the last time you laughed freely. Maybe it wasn't a grand event. Maybe it was a small, unexpected comment, a pet's peculiar behavior, a mispronounced word that led to a new, inside joke. As the laughter rose, your shoulders relaxed, your breath deepened, your thoughts softened. That was no coincidence. That was biology at work. Laughter activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting the body from states of stress to states of rest. In those moments of mirth, cortisol levels drop, blood vessels expand, and circulation improves. Muscles release tension. The lungs inflate more deeply, allowing greater oxygenation of the blood. The heart rate, initially elevated by the physical exertion of laughter, eventually stabilizes into a more regular, healthy rhythm. What feels like joy is also a physiological reset, and the effects are not fleeting. In a 15-year study conducted in Norway, researchers found that individuals with a strong sense of humor, particularly those who could find lightness, even in the face of adversity, had a 25% higher survival rate than those with lower humor scores. Among cancer patients, those who maintained a sense of humor reported less pain, less fatigue, and better overall resilience. This is not anecdote. This is longevity, rendered in laughter lines and softened shoulders. Soon, we will turn our focus to the impact of environment and psycho air quality, climate, purposeful work, and a positive outlook further shape our years. But for now, let the warmth of these sun-drenched villages and the comfort of shared traditions settle within you. Imagine stepping outside into a landscape shaped by fresh, clean air, an environment that subtly nourishes long life. Perhaps you find yourself on a mist-kissed hillside, where the oxygen you inhale feels pure and invigorating. Or you walk along a shaded old-growth forest path, where ancient trees filter pollutants and lend a sense of calm reverberating through your chest. Scientific studies have shown that air quality plays a pivotal role in cardiovascular and respiratory health. Lower levels of fine particulate matter reduce inflammation in the lungs, ease the heart's workload, and contribute to longer, more comfortable lives. Now, let your attention shift to climate. Picture a place where temperatures remain moderate, neither scorching hot nor bitterly cold, allowing the body's thermoregulatory systems to function with minimal stress. In such climates, our cells expend less energy combating extreme heat or cold, preserving physiological resources and helping maintain the delicate balance of our metabolism. Research indicates that populations living in temperate regions often enjoy lower rates of metabolic disorders and chronic diseases, adding gentle support to the body's inherent longevity mechanisms. As you breathe slowly with the rain, consider the landscapes of the mind, our psychological environment, shaped by purpose, optimism, and stress management. Recall those Okinawan gatherings, Sardinian family meals, and Icarian siestas. Each community cultivated a sense of purpose that extended beyond the self. In psychology, this enduring sense of meaning, often called ikigai, or plan de vida, has been linked to reduced levels of the stress hormone cortisol, better immune function, and even lower rates of depression. Imagine, then, the relief that washes over you when you know your daily actions matter, whether by tending a small garden, mentoring younger relatives, or simply caring for your own well-being. Now, drift inward once more to the realm of stress and resilience. Our bodies respond to stressors: illness, financial worries, loss, with a cascade of hormonal signals designed for short-term survival. But when stress becomes chronic, those same signals can erode health, contributing to hypertension, weakened immunity, and accelerated cellular aging. In blue zones and other long-lived communities, stress is often managed through rituals, morning prayers, or meditative reflections, communal storytelling under a starlit sky, or even simple breathing exercises practiced at dawn. These rituals engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digestion, encouraging the body to shift out of fight-or-flight mode and into restorative balance. As the rain's tempo remains steady, picture yourself inhaling slowly, counting to 4, pausing, then exhaling for another count of 4. Feel the air flow through your lungs, carrying ease to every cell. This simple practice, rooted in ancient traditions and validated by modern science, can lower heart rate, calm the mind, and foster a state of gentle alertness that supports healthy aging. Lastly, consider your mental outlook. Studies have shown that those who approach life with optimism experience fewer age-related declines and often extend their lifespan by several years. Optimism does not imply ignoring life's challenges, but rather cultivating a belief in one's ability to adapt and grow. Picture, if you will, an elderly gardener kneeling beside a patch of vibrant marigolds, hands in the soil, eyes focused on new blossoms. In that moment, hope and engagement combine. reinforcing neural pathways that bolster cognitive function and emotional well-being. As the soothing sound of rain guides your thoughts, allow these environmental and psychological insights to settle. The gift of pure air, the comfort of mild climates, the anchoring power of purpose, the release found in ritual, and the nurturing strength of optimism. Each element interlaces gently with the cellular and communal factors we've already explored, weaving a comprehensive tapestry of longevity. Soon, we will explore the roles of diet and lifestyle interventions, how the foods we choose and the habits we cultivate can further tip the balance toward a longer, healthier life. But for now, rest in the knowledge that both the world around you and the world within shape your journey through time. Imagine the warmth of the morning sun filtering through a kitchen window as you stir a pot of simmering legumes, chickpeas or black beans, each one plump and glossy in the soft light. These humble pulses form the foundation of many traditional diets linked to longevity, supplying plant-based protein, fiber, and a symphony of micronutrients. As they soften, releasing their earthy aroma, envision how their slow-digesting carbohydrates help maintain steady blood sugar levels and support a healthy gut microbiome across continents. Centenarians often follow a Mediterranean-style pattern: fresh vegetables drizzled with extra virgin olive oil, a handful of nuts offering creamy richness, and small servings of fish or poultry on special occasions. Picture a bowl of cherry tomatoes, bright, sun-warmed, and slightly tart-tossed with fragrant basil leaves and a whisper of sea salt. This vibrant mosaic of colors and flavors nourishes not only the body, but also the senses, reminding us that food can be both medicine and pleasure when chosen mindfully. Now let your thoughts drift to caloric moderation. In laboratory studies, modest reductions in calorie intake and 10 to 20% below typical consumption have extended lifespan in various animal models, from rodents to primates. This practice need not imply deprivation. Rather, it encourages awareness of fullness cues and a gracious appreciation for each bite. Feel the sensation of pausing midway through a meal, placing your hand gently on your abdomen, acknowledging that sense of satiety before returning your fork, interwoven with diet. Consider the practice of intermittent fasting, periods of voluntary abstention from food lasting anywhere from 12 to 18 hours. Imagine the quiet calm of your body as it shifts from digesting to repairing, engaging autophagy to clear cellular debris. In human studies, intermittent fasting has been associated with improved insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, and even enhanced cognitive clarity. Envision how, by delaying the first sip of morning coffee until the sun has warmed the air, you grant your cells a window of renewal that can ripple outward into benefits for heart, brain, and longevity. Drift now to the realm of nutraceuticals and functional food substances like turmeric, with its gentle warmth and hint of peppery spice, known for its anti-inflammatory curcumin, or fatty fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids, their oily texture and briny taste offering protection against cardiovascular disease. Many centenarians relish a cup of green teats, subtle astringency and vegetal aroma, carrying catechins that support healthy aging at a cellular level. Beyond what we eat, contemplate the role of movement as a lifestyle intervention. Picture a simple routine: rising early to walk at a leisurely pace along a shaded lane, the soles of your shoes pressing softly into dew-kissed grass. No need for strenuous workouts. The cumulative effect of gentle activities: standing up to tend a garden, climbing a few steps, stretching arms overhead, encourages balanced muscle mass, bone density, and circulation. Feel the warmth radiate from your muscles as they awaken, delivering oxygen-rich blood to every corner of your body. Finally, consider the harmony of sleep hygiene and daily rhythms. Imagine an evening ritual: dimming lights as dusk falls, steeping a cup of chamomile tea, whose subtle floral sweetness soothes the mind. As the rain's hush deepens, you prepare for rest at a consistent hour, aligning your internal clock with natural light cycles. Sound scientific research confirms that regular sleep patterns bolster hormonal balance, memory consolidation, and immune resilience, cornerstones of a body equipped to age gracefully. As the rain continues its gentle descent, let these images drift through your awareness: a plate of colorful vegetables glistening with olive oil, the quiet discipline of fasting, the soft cadence of daily walks, and the comfort of evening routines. Each choice, what we eat, when we eat, how we move, and how we rest, interlaces with cellular and communal factors to weave a tapestry of long life. Now, as we approach the frontier of longevity science, imagine peering through a clear glass window into a modern laboratory, where researchers in crisp white coats conduct meticulous experiments under gentle LED lighting. Though the pace here may seem more measured than the hustle of mainstream media, the discoveries hold profound promise for extending human healthspan. First, consider the field of senolytics, a class of compounds designed to selectively eliminate senescent cells, the ones that have entered permanent retirement, yet continue to secrete inflammatory signals. In animal studies, low-dose senolytic treatments have reversed age-related tissue dysfunction, improving cardiac performance and mobility. Picture a cultured layer of human skin cells. After a senolytic cocktail, many aged cells gracefully dissolve, making space for healthier neighbors and restoring a youthful pattern of cellular renewal. In many of the world's longest-living cultures, laughter is woven seamlessly into daily life. Not scheduled, not performed, but welcomed. In Okinawa, elders engage in playful banter, storytelling, and communal games well into their 90s. In Sardinia, meals are rich with humor, local gossip, affectionate teasing, and jokes passed down like recipes. The laughter is often dry, understated, almost conspiratorial. The shared joy of those who've seen much, endured more, and now choose to smile at the absurdities of life. Humor, in these contexts, is not entertainment. It is resilience, a way to metabolize suffering without being consumed by it. There is, in psychology, a term called cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reframe a difficult situation by changing how one interprets it. Laughter is perhaps the most ancient form of this skill. To laugh at misfortune, gently, without cruelty, is to regain power over it. To say, yes, this happened, but I am still here, and I can still smile. Even among those who have suffered great loss, the return of laughter is often a milestone of healing. It marks the moment when pain becomes memory, and memory becomes bearable. This is not denial, it is transformation. And in the body, it translates into lower inflammation, improved immunity, and greater emotional stability. Now consider the brain. Laughter activates multiple regions, not just those involved in emotion, but areas tied to language, memory, and decision-making. MRI studies have shown that shared laughter stimulates parts of the brain involved in social bonding, creating a sense of closeness and trust. For elders, at risk of isolation, regular interaction that involves lightheartedness can delay cognitive decline, improve mood, and even slow the progression of neurodegenerative disease. The elderly, often perceived as serious or somber, are in truth among the greatest humorists. Their jokes may be drier, their punchlines slower, but their sense of irony is profound. They have, after all, lived long enough to witness life's strange circularity, the smallness of worries once considered enormous, the recurrence of events disguised as new, in long-lived individuals. Humor is often tinged with gentleness. It is not used to wound or dominate, but to soften and to draw near. This kind of laughter, inclusive, kind, unhurried, appears to strengthen community. Bonds a crucial factor in the mental and physical health of the aged. Let us pause here, breathe gently, and consider what brings you joy. What makes you smile, even privately? Perhaps it is a particular memory, a shared phrase, a scene in a film that always lifts you. Perhaps it is the absurdity of your own routines, the way you talk to plants, the way your socks disappear without explanation. Joy does not need to be large. It needs only to be noticed. And then there is play. So often considered the realm of the young, but in truth, play is a universal human need. Long-lived individuals often retain a sense of curiosity, of experimentation, of willingness to look foolish in pursuit of joy. Whether through card games, light dancing, storytelling, or even simple games of wordplay, playfulness reactivates neural networks associated with adaptability, novelty, and reward. It is the brain's way of staying elastic. You do not have to laugh loudly. You do not have to perform happiness. Even a smile, even a private chuckle, has power. And you do not need to wait for others. One of the quietest joys is the joy of noticing. The way a leaf curls as it falls. The expression of a dog passing by. The small surprise of warmth in your cup. These two can be funny, not in the traditional sense, but in the way they delight. The way they remind you that the world is endlessly strange and often kind. In Japan, there is an art called Kyogen, brief comedic plays, performed between more serious, no dramas. These interludes, filled with clowns, misunderstandings, and farce, are not distractions. They are balancing forces, reminders that even within the most solemn story, there must be room for relief. Perhaps we might adopt the same rhythm. For each serious moment, a light one. For each burden, a joke. Not to erase the weight, but to make carrying it possible. Let this be your invitation to smile, gently. Even now, as the rain continues outside, and the hours move forward. Imagine laughter as a thread running through your life. Sometimes quiet, sometimes bright, but always present. It softens the days. It invites breath. It stretches the road ahead. And in the story of longevity, it holds a chapter all its own. So tonight, as you drift closer to sleep, let a smile rise, even if only for yourself. Let your body remember what it feels like to be light, to be amused, to feel, somewhere deep inside, that all is not heavy. That some things, even the most important things, are best carried with a little bit of laughter. Let us now enter one of the most essential, most overlooked, and most mysterious pillars of long life. Sleep. The night, for many, is merely the end of a day. But for those who live long and well, the night is not an absence of action. It is a ceremony, a ritual, a deliberate descent into the body's most potent healing state. To speak of longevity is to speak invariably of sleep. The two are so deeply entwined that no conversation about aging, health, or vitality is complete without acknowledging that how we sleep determines how we live. Imagine a village long before electricity. The sun has set, and so have the tools, the voices, the dust. A single lantern glows in the window. The fire has reduced to embers. The world has turned inward. There is no screen, no urgent buzz, no flood of fluorescent light. The body, tuned to darkness, begins to soften, to prepare. This was the natural rhythm for most of human history. A rhythm not designed, but inherited, inscribed in us by millennia of life. Lived in partnership with light and dark, and science now reveals what the ancients intuited. Sleep is not simply rest, it is reconstruction. During deep sleep, especially in stages known as NREM, stage 3, or slow wave sleep, the brain engages in a nightly cleanse. The glymphatic system, a waste clearance mechanism unique to the brain, flushes out metabolic debris, including beta amyloid, a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Like a gentle tide, cerebrospinal fluid moves through the brain's tissues, carrying away toxins accumulated during waking hours. Sleep, then, is not passive. It is a biological ritual of purification. During this time, the immune system repairs damage. Hormones are balanced. Muscles recover. Memories consolidate. Emotional experiences are processed, reorganized into narrative, or stored quietly away. Without sufficient sleep, these systems falter. Chronic deprivation of sleep leads to inflammation, hormonal dysregulation, insulin resistance, and cognitive decline, all hallmarks of premature aging. In fact, one long-term study published in the journal Aging found that individuals who consistently slept fewer than 6 hours per night had telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that were significantly shorter than those who slept 7 to 9 hours. Shorter telomeres are not just a metaphor for aging. They are aging at the cellular level. And yet, in our modern world, sleep is often treated as optional, as though rest is something to be earned only after productivity. This mindset, deeply ingrained in many industrial cultures, comes at a cost measured not only in years, but in quality of those years. Now imagine a room made for sleep. The air is cool and clean. The lights are low, golden, never blue. The bed is simple, the linen soft. There are no blinking devices, no distant hum of electronics. The body enters this room and knows it is time. The nervous system recognizes the signal and begins to shift. Heart rate drops, breath deepens. Melatonin, the hormone of darkness, rises, and with it, the body crosses the invisible threshold into stillness. This is not fantasy, this is biology. The human body responds with deep sensitivity to cues of light and temperature. Melatonin production, critical for initiating sleep, is suppressed by exposure to blue light, the kind emitted by phones, tablets, and most artificial lighting. A single hour of screen use before bed can delay sleep onset, reduce total sleep time, and diminish REM sleep, which is essential for emotional regulation and creativity. But when we honor natural rhythms, dimming lights in the evening, allowing exposure to morning sunlight, cooling the sleeping environment, the body responds with deep, satisfying rest. In long-lived cultures, sleep is not isolated from the flow of daily life. In Okinawa, elders rise early and rest in the afternoon. In parts of rural Italy and Greece, the siesta still survives a short nap, taken in the heat of the day, allowing for both physical rest and cognitive renewal. This biphasic sleep pattern, divided into night sleep and a brief midday nap, may in fact be closer to our evolutionary design. Next, let your attention drift to NAD precursors, such as nicotinamide riboside and nicotinamide mononucleotide. NAD, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, is a coenzyme central to energy metabolism and DNA repair. Its levels decline naturally with age, but early clinical trials hint that supplementation can revitalize mitochondrial function and enhance metabolic health. Envision the tiny molecular dance within your cells, as each NAD molecule cycles between oxidized and reduced forms, fueling the engines of life with renewed vigor. Emerging gene therapies, also a whisper of possibility. Scientists have begun to manipulate the expression of genes linked to longevity, such as the FOXO family, which regulates stress resistance and metabolism. In preclinical models, modest upregulation of FOXO genes has led to extended lifespan without apparent adverse effects. Imagine a soft glow emanating from every cell's nucleus, as targeted mRNA molecules deliver precise instructions, gently rebalancing the body's internal symphony. Beyond molecular approaches, regenerative medicine employs stem cells to replenish damaged tissues. In controlled settings, mesenchymal stem cells have been infused to repair cardiac tissue after injury, and neural stem cells show potential for supporting brain health. Picture a serene scene, a single quiescent stem cell drifting into the bloodstream, homing to a site of wear and quietly differentiating into the specialized cells needed for repair. A subtle testament to the body's own capacity for renewal. Yet, even as these cutting-edge interventions unfold, the essence of longevity may still reside in the daily practices we've explored: balanced diet, purposeful community, and mindful rest. The future, then, may blend ancient wisdom with modern innovation, crafting personalized regimens that support each individual's unique biology. Allow yourself now to reflect on the journey we've traversed, the silent toil of cellular machinery, the sunlit camaraderie of blue zone villages, the life-affirming habits of diet and movement, the nurturing power of environment and mindset, and the promise of tomorrow's breakthroughs. Each thread, woven with care, contributes to the tapestry of a long and vibrant life. In the final moments of this segment, as raindrops continue their lullaby, simply breathe in the knowledge that longevity is not a distant myth, but a multifaceted reality, one that you engage with every day through choices, both small and grand. Imagine gazing at a family portrait. Generations lined up side by side, deep space, bearing subtle echoes of ancestors long past. Within those portraits lies a code, the inheritance of genes that influence not only our appearance, but also our propensity for healthy aging. Yet, alongside these fixed sequences, there exists a layer of regulation, epigenetics, where life's experiences gently inscribe marks upon our DNA, guiding which genes awaken and which remain silent. Consider the APO gene, known to affect cholesterol metabolism and, by extension, cardiovascular risk. Individuals with certain variants of APO tend to experience earlier onset of heart disease, while others carry alleles that seem to confer protective effects. Picture these genetic letters as notes in a quiet symphony, each variant subtly shifting the harmony toward resilience or vulnerability. Now, drift to the realm of epigenetic modifications, chemical tags such as methyl groups that attach themselves to DNA strands like tiny bookmarks, directing a reader's attention. Lifelong factors, diet quality, stress levels, environmental exposures leave traces in these bookmarks, influencing gene expression without altering the underlying code. In long-lived populations, researchers have identified patterns of epigenetic marks associated with enhanced DNA repair and reduced inflammation. Imagine these marks as gentle reminders, ensuring that critical longevity genes remain accessible when needed most. As you breathe in sync with the rain, reflect on the interplay between inherited predispositions and life's choices. While we cannot rewrite the basic letters passed down from our parents, we can influence the epigenetic annotations through mindful living, balanced nutrition, stress management, and exposure to nature's rhythms. Finally, consider emerging research into epigenetic clocks, biological age estimators based on the accumulation of these chemical tags. In studies, individuals practicing healthy lifestyle habits often exhibit epigenetic ages younger than their chronological years, a testament to the power of environment and behavior in shaping genetic destiny. Allow these insights to settle. The blueprint of genes, beautifully complex, and the dynamic annotations of epigenetics, ever responsive to our daily actions. Each breath you take, each thoughtful choice, gently contributes to how this code resonates throughout your life's journey. Picture, if you will, a hidden forest within you, trillions of microscopic organisms living along the curves of your digestive tract. This inner ecosystem, known as the microbiome, forms a symbiotic community that influences digestion, immunity, and even mood. As you imagine that gentle biome, consider how its balance can tip the scales between health and disease, shaping the contours of longevity. Envision a palette of colorful vegetables, crisp carrots, leafy kale, purple cabbage entering your body and arriving to nourish friendly bacteria. These microbes break down complex fibers into short-chain fatty acids, compounds that soothe the lining of your colon, reduce inflammation, and send signals through the vagus nerve to calm the brain. Drift with the thought that each bite of food is like a gift to your internal forest, encouraging a thriving diversity of species. Now, allow your mind's eye to see the effects when this balance falters, the hush of beneficial strains giving way to rowdier, less helpful bacteria. Disruptions perhaps from antibiotics, a diet high in refined sugars, or stress can ripple through the microbiome, triggering low-grade inflammation that accelerates aging. In long-lived communities, traditional diets rich in fermented foods, stungy, sauerkraut, miso, kefir, and kimchi help maintain microbial harmony. Picture a small bowl of tangy pickles on a sunlit table, their brine a potent elixir for microbial health. As the rain continues its lullaby, reflect on how simple rituals, zating a spoonful of yogurt at breakfast, sipping kombucha in the afternoon, savoring a slice of tangy tomato nurture the microbial world within. Research suggests that a diverse microbiome may even influence telomere length and reduce markers of cellular aging, linking our internal allies directly to the secrets of a long life. Feel the steady rhythm of your breath in time with the rain, knowing that each inhale and each mindful morsel supports not just you, but an entire ecosystem that hums quietly beneath the surface. Imagine a quiet study, bathed in soft lamplight, lined with books whose spines bear titles, both familiar and mysterious. Within these pages, knowledge awaits stories, discoveries, and ideas that stretch the mind. Engaging with new information and skills throughout life builds what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve, a buffer that helps preserve mental agility well into advanced years. Consider the act of learning a foreign language. As your lips shape unfamiliar words and your ears attune to novel sounds, neural pathways form and strengthen, weaving a resilient network that supports memory and attention. Picture yourself tracing letters in a gentle script, each stroke reinforcing connections between brain regions. Over time, this steady practice can delay the onset of age-related cognitive decline. Now, drift to the realm of musical engagement. Whether listening to a favorite melody, or practicing a simple instrument, perhaps carefully plucking the strings of a ukulele, your brain coordinates intricate patterns of motor control, auditory processing, and emotional response. Envision each note as a ripple across a still pond, touching multiple shores of neural circuitry and deepening the waters of memory. Beyond language and music, the art of puzzles and strategy games offers similar nourishment. Imagine sliding a piece into place within a gently crafted jigsaw puzzle, or moving a knight across a chessboard with deliberate calm. These activities invite the mind to observe patterns, anticipate outcomes, and adapt plans. Cognitive exercises that bolster executive functions and problem-solving skills. In many long-lived communities, daily life itself is rich with learning. Elders pass down traditional crafts, embroidery, pottery, woodworking, through unhurried instruction and shared stories. Feel the texture of a clay vessel under your fingertips as you shape its walls, each movement a lesson in patience and precision. Such hands-on engagement not only preserves cultural heritage, but also sustains mental vitality. Scientific studies confirm that adults who pursue lifelong learning, whether through formal classes, self-directed study, or creative hobbies, to maintain sharper cognitive function and show reduced risk of dementia. As the rain's cadence lulls your thoughts, reflect on how even small commitments, reading a new book each month, trying out a recipe from a different cuisine, or learning to paint, light up your brain with fresh connections. Imagine yourself in a quiet place of reflection, a small chapel, with wooden pews polished by time, or perhaps beneath a tall cedar tree, the scent of earth rising after rain. In these still moments, humans across cultures have long turned inward, seeking meaning, connection, and peace. Whether through prayer, meditation, quiet gratitude, or the rituals passed down over centuries, spiritual practice gently cradles the mind and body, and plays a quiet, yet powerful role in healthy aging. And yet, the goal is not to copy traditions, but to return to presence. To regard sleep not as time lost, but as life gained. There is also the role of dreaming, a territory of sleep still not fully understood, but increasingly recognized for its role in psychological resilience. During REM sleep, the brain reactivates emotional memories, integrating them in a less reactive, more symbolic way. This nocturnal processing helps reduce trauma, manage grief, and maintain mental clarity. All critical components of aging with grace. Let us pause here. Reflect on your own rhythms. How do you arrive at sleep? Is it abrupt, accidental? Or is it intentional? A descending ritual, like a slow winding down. You might begin simply by dimming the lights an hour before bed, by turning off screens, allowing your mind to detach, by engaging in gentle rituals, warm tea, soft music, light reading, or even silence. These are not rules. They are invitations, signaling to the body that it is safe to release, and release is key. For many, the greatest barrier to sleep is not noise or light, but unreleased tension, the thoughts unprocessed, the emotions held tight in the chest. The practice of writing a few lines before bed, a journal, a reflection, even a list, can clear the mental desk. Likewise, light stretching or breath work may allow the body to unclench. Some long-lived individuals speak of gratitude as a nightly ritual, a quiet remembering of 3 small joys from the day. This simple act shifts the focus from what remains undone to what has already been received. And this shift, subtle as it is, calms the nervous system. Then there is the architecture of stillness, the bedroom as sanctuary. Let your sleep space be separate from your workspace, if possible. Let it smell pleasant lavender, cedar, fresh linen. Let the temperature drop. Let silence be protected. In doing so, you do not pamper yourself. You honor the deepest medicine the body knows. Even the position of sleep matters. Side sleeping has been shown to improve lymphatic flow, especially on the left side. Elevating the legs may improve circulation. A cool head and warm feet often invite faster sleep onset. But above all, comfort matters. The body knows what it prefers, if given permission to choose. And let us not forget the role of community in sleep. In many traditional cultures, people sleep communally, families or siblings, sharing beds or rooms. The presence of others can reduce fear, regulate warmth, and provide subtle emotional comfort. Even today, those who feel socially connected tend to sleep more soundly. Loneliness, by contrast, is linked to fragmented, restless sleep, a kind of biological alarm state that persists through the night. You need not sleep beside others to receive this benefit. A warm conversation before bed, a voice message from a friend, the presence of connection, even in memory, can soothe. Finally, there is the spirituality of sleep, the ancient belief that night is a return, a descent into another realm. Many traditions speak of sleep as a sacred passage, the soul journeying, the mind cleansing, the self returning to source. Whether you hold spiritual beliefs or not, there is value in treating sleep as something worthy, not casual, not neglected, but revered. So tonight, let sleep become your temple. Let your bed become not just a surface, but a place of rest, in the truest sense of surrender, of softness, of permission. Let the darkness hold you, let your breath slow, let your thoughts untangle like ribbons in a breeze, and let your body do what it was made to do. Heal, integrate, and prepare for another beautiful day of being alive. Yet even in the midst of such stillness, there is a subtle invitation to go further, beyond simply preparing for rest, and into the deeper inquiry of how the quality of our sleep reflects the quality of our days. For in truth, restful sleep is not simply something we summon at night. It is something we earn gently throughout the day. Long-lived individuals often speak of this, not in clinical terms, but in expressions like "I live peacefully, so I sleep peacefully," or "when the day is light, the night comes easy." What they mean, whether knowingly or not, is that our relationship to sleep is shaped long before the pillow meets our cheek. The body, after all, is a creature of cycles. The circadian rhythm, our internal clock, thrives on regularity. Meals eaten at consistent times, movement during daylight, exposure to sun in the morning, and dimness in the evening. These natural pulses reinforce the body's expectation that sleep comes in the dark, after a rhythmically satisfying day. When those rhythms are disrupted by irregular schedules, artificial lighting, or emotional chaos, sleep becomes less a descent and more a negotiation. So one of the deepest sleep practices may, in fact, be cultivating a day not a day stuffed with tasks, but a day textured with meaning. Time outdoors, time in movement, time with others, time in silence. These are not luxuries. They are scaffolding for the stillness to come. Take, for instance, the early morning walk. It is almost universally revered among those who age well. In Okinawa, elders gather before the sun climbs too high. In Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula, the cool blue hours are used for light gardening, stretching, or simple wandering. This practice does two things. It anchors the circadian clock by exposing the eyes to full-spectrum natural light, which suppresses melatonin and signals wakefulness, and it provides a buffer of quiet, intentionality, and breath before the demands of the day. In the evening, the same principle applies, in reverse. As light wanes, activity winds down. Meals are eaten slowly. Voices soften. Music shifts from brisk to tender. Elders may sip warm herbal tea, or prepare small altars of remembrance, gestures that are not superstitious, but sensory cues, telling the body and soul, it is safe to let go now. And this letting go, this non-doing, is perhaps the most underappreciated skill in modern life. To sleep well is to surrender, and to surrender requires trust. Trust that the world will still turn without your vigilance, that the dishes can wait, that the unsent email will not collapse the cosmos, that your body, if allowed, will carry you forward with or without your effort. This trust is cultivated, not commanded. It grows with every moment you choose stillness over stimulation. Every time you close your eyes, not out of exhaustion, but out of respect for the whispering quiet within. The elders who live longest do not boast of their productivity. They speak, instead, of pace, of balance, of quiet evenings and slow mornings. They tell stories by lamplight, and pause often to breathe between thoughts. Their wisdom is not just spoken, It is enacted in the architecture of their days, and this wisdom, like all things, can be learned. You need not retreat to a mountaintop to reclaim your sleep. You need only begin to treat it as sacred. Start with one small ritual. A soft towel folded beside your bed. A breath, counted to 4. A window opened slightly to let in cool air. A single candle lit, then extinguished. These gestures, repeated nightly, create a rhythm, and the body, ever faithful, will respond. Eventually, you may find that your sleep no longer needs coaxing, that the body, grateful for the structure you have built, enters rest as a bird returns to its nest, instinctively, gently, and with complete trust. And in this nest of night, something more happens, something that no study, no scan, no device can fully capture. You remember who you are beneath the doing. You return to your essential state, not as a worker, a thinker, or even a dreamer, but simply as a being. You float, for a time, in the quiet hum of your own aliveness. Cells rebuild, organs harmonize. The mind drops its armor. And you, beloved listener, disappear into the most ancient of sanctuaries, the one where all life begins again. So now the invitation lingers. Take it if you wish. Prepare your body. Dim the lights. Let the day slip off your shoulders, and walk, barefoot and unburdened, into the hush of night. We now turn to a realm less tangible than cells or communities, less visible than diet or rest, yet no less vital to the tapestry of a long life, the landscapes of memory and meaning. If longevity is measured in years, the quality of those years is measured by the stories we carry, the significance we assign, and the threads of continuity that bind our past, present, and future selves. Imagine, for a moment, an elderly storyteller. Under the warm glow of a single lamp, her voice is not loud, but it holds a resonance born of decades. As she speaks, her listeners' children, grandchildren, neighbors lean in, drawn by the weight of each recollection. These memories, woven into parables of hardship and joy, preserve not only personal history, but collective identity. They become living bridges between generations, and in that continuity, they offer a powerful antidote to the sense of fragmentation that can accompany aging. Scientific research increasingly confirms what cultures have known for centuries: meaningful autobiography. Memory supports mental health, emotional resilience, and even physical well-being. When elders recount moments of purpose founding a family, overcoming illness, achieving a modest dream, their narratives reinforce a sense of self that transcends the limitations of the body. This sense of self, in turn, correlates with lower levels of inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, both linked to chronic diseases and frailty. Research has found that individuals who engage in regular spiritual or religious practice regardless of faith or tradition to experience lower levels of stress, stronger social bonds, and greater overall life satisfaction. These practices encourage moments of contemplation, slowing the breath and calming the heart rate, activating the parasympathetic nervous system in ways that directly support cardiovascular and immune health. Picture the gentle ritual of lighting a candle each morning, its flame flickering quietly as you speak a few soft words into the silence. Or imagine the rhythm of prayer beads passing through the fingers, each one a marker of presence, repetition, and surrender. These rituals, whether performed alone or in community, provide structure to the day and a sense of timelessness, gently pulling the mind away from worries and grounding it in the now. Even secular spirituality, the practice of awe and wonder, can nurture the inner landscape. Feel the vastness of a night sky above you, stars scattered like grains of salt across a velvet black canvas, or walk through a forest in early morning, where the hush of wind and branches feels almost like a whisper. In these encounters with the transcendent, cortisol levels fall, heart rhythms soften, and a sense of calm pervades the body. In Blue Zone communities, spirituality is often seamlessly woven into daily life. In Ikaria, elders attend small church services and join festivals that celebrate seasonal abundance. In Okinawa, family altars are tended with care, honoring ancestors with offerings of fruit and rice. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, Simple morning prayers begin the day. While in Loma Linda, California, Seventh-day Adventists welcome the Sabbath with quiet walks, shared meals, and hymns sung under oak trees. Let your mind linger for a moment in these slow rhythms, a breath drawn in prayer, a walk through sacred space, a whispered song of thanks. These practices do not require belief in any one doctrine. Instead, they offer moments of stillness and grounding, anchoring you in a larger sense of time and place, which scientists now recognize as key protective factors in aging. Soften now into this idea that a long life is not only about the body, but also the soul, however you define it. To feel connected to others, to the natural world, to something greater is to awaken an inner peace that, like the rain outside, needs no force to be felt. Picture an elderly woman in a sunlit kitchen, carefully kneading dough with quiet precision. Around her, the soft clatter of utensils, the scent of herbs from her garden, and a slow tune humming from her lips. To her grandchildren, she is not only a caregiver, but a teacher, a keeper of traditions, a living thread to the past. In cultures where elders are valued for their wisdom and presence, longevity is not only measured in years, but in continued purpose, a reason to rise, to participate, and to be needed. In Western societies, retirement often marks a withdrawal from structured roles, but in long-lived cultures, it marks a transition, not an ending. In Sardinia, older men still join their sons in tending sheep. In Okinawa, grandmothers continue to harvest vegetables and prepare meals for community festivals. These aren't burdens, they're natural roles, shaped by affection, rhythm, and interdependence. Studies consistently show that people with a strong sense of purpose, something meaningful to contribute, no matter how modest, enjoy lower risks of cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, and even mortality. Researchers have found that having a clear reason to live, especially in older adulthood, boosts resilience, lowers inflammatory markers, and supports better sleep and mood. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It might be as simple as walking a neighbor's dog, tending a window box garden, writing letters to distant family, or showing a child how to tie their shoes. Imagine your own small daily rituals that bring a sense of quiet satisfaction. Picture your hands folding towels, your voice sharing an old story, or your presence at the end of a phone line. These acts are invisible architecture, forming the emotional scaffolding of community. Social roles matter not only in giving, but also in being seen. In cultures with intergenerational households, older adults remain central to the family story. They're consulted, included, and honored, not merely managed or tolerated. This sense of social inclusion leads to healthier habits, better emotional regulation, and greater self-worth, factors tightly linked to biological health and extended life. Now let your thoughts settle around a simple truth. To be useful, to be loved, to belong, these are not trivial comforts, but foundations of a life that endures. Imagine how each act of connection, no matter how brief, becomes a stitch in the long thread of vitality. As the rain continues to patter against unseen leaves and rooftops, rest in this understanding. Long life flows not only from within the cells and organs, but also from the relationships that surround and sustain us now. Draw your awareness inward to a place of deep stillness, the edge of sleep. You've been here before, eyes heavy, breath deepening, the body surrendering to gravity. But beneath that peaceful veil, a complex and essential biological performance begins. Sleep is not merely rest, it is renewal, a series of rhythmic cycles that cleanse, repair, and reset nearly every system in the body. And in the story of longevity, quality sleep emerges as one of the most potent, yet often overlooked ingredients. Imagine drifting into the first stage of sleep, light, fragile, and easily stirred. Your muscles begin to loosen. The world blurs. Soon, you drop deeper into non-REM sleep, a time when growth hormone is released, triggering tissue repair and cellular regeneration. If you've taken a walk earlier that day or eaten nourishing food, this is when your body puts those benefits to use, rebuilding microscopic tears and muscle, processing nutrients, and rebalancing blood sugar levels. Then, gradually, you descend into slow-wave sleep, the deepest and most restorative state. Your brain waves become long and deliberate, like waves moving through calm water. In this phase, neuronal housekeeping begins. Proteins associated with memory are consolidated, and the glymphatic system, a kind of nighttime sanitation, crew washes the brain and cerebrospinal fluid, clearing away metabolic waste and potentially harmful proteins like beta amyloid, which are implicated in cognitive decline. Picture this cleansing as a gentle, slow tide washing across the folds of your mind, leaving clarity in its wake. Later in the night, you enter REM sleep, a stage rich with dreams, emotional processing, and memory integration. Here, the brain becomes highly active, even though the body remains still. REM sleep helps regulate mood, build resilience to stress, and strengthen problem-solving skills. In those who reach advanced stages with their cognitive abilities intact, scientists often find consistent patterns of deep, unbroken sleep over many years. Now consider what happens when sleep is fragmented or insufficient. Studies show that chronic sleep deprivation accelerates cellular aging, increases inflammation, and dysregulates hormones like insulin and leptin, which govern appetite and metabolism. Even one night of poor sleep can raise cortisol levels and reduce insulin sensitivity. Over time, poor sleep becomes a quiet saboteur, nibbling away at longevity from within. In contrast, those who maintain healthy circadian rhythms, cycles tied to natural light and darkness, experience better cardiovascular health, lower rates of depression, and stronger immune function. In many long-lived cultures, evening routines unfold gently: dimmed lights, soft conversation, warm herbal teas, and no bright screens. Picture yourself sipping a cup of warm milk with a pinch of turmeric, or chamomile steeped in porcelain, the scent floral and faintly sweet. Outside, the sky darkens, lamps are lit, and the house becomes quieter with each passing hour. Naps, too, are woven into the fabric of long life. In the Mediterranean, an early afternoon rest, short, unhurried, and never rushed, is common and protective. These short rests, when kept under 30 minutes, help lower blood pressure and improve cognitive alertness without disrupting the night's sleep. Imagine lying beneath a ceiling fan, your breath slowing, the air warm but still. There is no urgency, here just restoration down. Think about your own sleep. What rituals ease you into the night? Perhaps a warm bath, the quiet rustle of a book's pages, or the steady tick of a clock in the next room. These moments signal to the body that the day is ending, that it is safe to let go, to descend gently into that inner world where health is quietly renewed. Let your mind linger here, in the dark, cool hush of a room made ready for sleep, your breath soft and rhythmic. Know that each night's rest is not merely a pause, but a vital participant in your body's ongoing story, a quiet artisan, shaping the architecture of longevity, one dream-laced hour at a time. Picture your own life as a book, each chapter marked by a title. Childhood days under a swinging rope, the thrill of first love, the quiet triumph of mastering a craft, the sorrow of loss. These chapters do not exist in isolation. They overlap, echo, and inform each other, creating a rich mosaic of meaning. In the later chapters of life, our ability to revisit, reinterpret, and sometimes rewrite these narratives can shape not only how we feel in the moment, but also how our bodies respond at the molecular level. Let us delve deeper into the concept of life review, a practice studied in gerontology and palliative care. In a structured life review, individuals are guided through phases of reflection, from early memories of safety and belonging, to pivotal moments of transformation, to hopes and regrets. This process can be formal, guided by therapists, or informal, shared over tea with friends. Yet its effects are profound. Reductions in anxiety, improvements in self-esteem, and enhanced meaning in daily life. In some studies, participants in life review interventions have shown improvements in immune function, and even modest increases in telomeres activity, suggesting a biological link between coherent self-narrative and cellular health. You might ask, why does storytelling matter so deeply to the body? One answer lies in the brain's architecture. The default mode network, a set of interconnected regions active during introspection, daydreaming, and memory recall, plays a crucial role in consolidating both factual and emotional aspects of experience. When we weave experiences into coherent narratives, we strengthen synaptic connections within this network, promoting neural resilience and delaying cognitive decline. Conversely, an absence of meaningful reflection can leave the mind more susceptible to rumination, depression, and memory fragmentation. Consider also the importance of cultural memory, the songs, rituals, recipes, and customs that define communities. In Blue Zone villages, culinary traditions are more than flavor profiles. They encode ancestral knowledge of local plants, seasonal rhythms, and communal celebrations. When elders teach these traditions to younger generations, they transmit not only practical skills, but also a sense of belonging, a potent protective factor against loneliness, which modern studies have consistently linked to higher mortality. Let your awareness drift to the small details that anchor memory to meaning. The feel of a handcrafted quilt against the skin, the scent of cinnamon and orange peel during a holiday gathering, the sound of a particular folk song sung at weddings. These sensory cues, when revisited, can evoke vivid, emotion-laden recollections that reinforce identity and stabilize mood. In neuroscience, we understand this as context-dependent memory, where sensory triggers activate the hippocampus and related structures, knitting together past and present in a moment of comforting recognition. But memory is not a static archive. It is dynamic, malleable, and subject to reinterpretation. Through reframing, we can shift the emotional valence of difficult recollections, acknowledging past sorrows, while emphasizing the growth they enabled. This process of cognitive reappraisal has been associated with lower cortisol levels and reduced sympathetic nervous system activation, both conducive to longevity. When we learn to see adversity as a teacher rather than a burden, our bodies register that shift with less inflammatory signaling and more efficient stress recovery. As we continue this journey, imagine an elder, perhaps yourself, in decades to come, sitting by a window, a soft shawl draped over the knees, pen in hand. Each evening, a few lines are written, a memory, a reflection, a wish. This narrative practice need not be grand or exhaustive. It can be brief, a note of gratitude, an insight gleaned that day. But over time, these entries compose a living document of meaning that guides both mind and body toward coherence and health. Let us also consider the power of ritualized remembrance, annual memorials for loved ones, community feasts in honor of ancestors, seasonal festivals. These collective ceremonies, present in every culture, reinforce social bonds and reassure participants that they are part of a larger story, one that stretches beyond individual lifespans. Anthropologists have observed that such rituals activate brain regions involved in reward and social cognition, releasing oxytocin and endorphins that bolster trust, empathy, and resilience. In effect, collective memory becomes a shared medicine. Memory and meaning intertwine with another key pillar of aging, anticipation. To live with purpose is also to look forward, to plan a garden for next spring, to dream of a reunion, to prepare a legacy. Anticipatory joy, when balanced and realistic, stimulates the dopaminergic system, supporting motivation and reward pathways. In older adults, maintaining goals and expectations has been linked to better health behaviors, increased physical activity, and a sense of agency that counteracts the helplessness sometimes felt in later life. Together, memory of the past and anticipation of the future create a temporal balance, a golden thread that runs through the self, anchoring it in a narrative continuum. This balance mitigates existential fear and supports psychological equanimity, which in turn correlates with stronger immune responses and reduced cardiovascular risk. Now allow yourself to rest in the quiet space between past and future. This present moment as the voice guides you gently onward. Feel the warmth of your own life story unfolding within, a soft illumination that steadies the heart. Let each recollection, each aspiration, become a soft beacon, reminding you that you are both author and protagonist of this remarkable journey. In the chapters yet to come, we will explore further how wisdom practices gratitude, forgiveness, compassionate, are sect with these themes to complete the portrait of a life both long and deeply lived. But for now, let the echoes of your own memories drift through your mind like lanterns floating on a dark pond, each one glowing with significance, guiding you ever onward toward wholeness and peace. Having wandered through the quiet corridors of memory and meaning, We now turn our attention to another essential element in the art of a long, well-lived life: wisdom, compassion, and the profound human connections that nourish the soul. Wisdom is often spoken of as a distant, almost mystical quality reserved for the very old. Yet, when we examine it more closely, wisdom reveals itself as a natural unfolding, a cultivation of insight that grows from a lifetime of experience, reflection, and empathy. It is not simply knowledge or intelligence, but a deeper understanding of life's rhythms, the capacity to embrace complexity, uncertainty, and change with a measured heart. In scientific terms, wisdom has been associated with traits such as emotional regulation, prosocial behavior, and a balanced perspective on one's own life and mortality. Studies have shown that individuals who exhibit higher wisdom scores tend to have better psychological well-being, reduced anxiety, and even lower rates of physical illness. There is a harmony between mind and body in the presence of wisdom, a quiet resilience that seems to protect against the wear of time. At the core of wisdom lies compassion, the ability to recognize suffering in oneself and others, and to respond with kindness and understanding, rather than judgment or avoidance. Compassion is not merely a feeling but an active force that binds people together, fostering social cohesion and mutual support. The practice of compassion stimulates the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, which not only strengthens interpersonal connections but also lowers stress hormones and promotes cardiovascular health. Imagine an elder in a village, surrounded by neighbors and kin. Their stories are rich not just with facts, but with moments of forgiveness, of care extended across generations, of unspoken understanding. This compassion creates a safety net, a buffer against the isolation and loneliness that modern studies have repeatedly linked with earlier mortality. This social fabric, woven from acts of kindness, shared experiences, and reciprocal support, is one of the most robust predictors of longevity worldwide. Loneliness, conversely, acts like a chronic stressor, increasing inflammation, disrupting sleep, and impairing immune function. It is a biological reminder that we are, above all, social beings. But compassion is not only outward-facing. It also includes self-compassion, the gentle acceptance of our own limitations, mistakes, and vulnerabilities. As the body ages and changes, as the mind encounters loss or decline, self-compassion becomes a balm, a way to ease inner suffering without harshness. Research shows that self-compassion correlates with lower levels of anxiety and depression, and helps individuals maintain motivation and hope, even in difficult circumstances. These qualities, wisdom, compassion, connection, form a triad that nurtures not just survival, but flourishing. They encourage a shift from doing to being, from endless striving to peaceful acceptance. This does not imply passivity, but a deep alignment with the flow of life, an openness to its mysteries and joys. Consider the rituals of many cultures where elders play vital roles, not as mere survivors, but as keepers of wisdom. In Okinawa, the concept of moe describes small groups that provide social, emotional, and financial support for life. In Sardinia, grandmothers are revered for their storytelling, healing knowledge, and guidance. In Icaria, Greece, daily gatherings over tea foster laughter, debate, and shared understanding, weaving a daily fabric of connection and meaning. Let your thoughts now turn toward something less often discussed in the conversation on longevity, but no less essential: the quiet influence of economic well-being, not wealth in excess, but the simpler kind of security that allows the mind and body to exhale. For in many of the world's longest living communities, affluence is rare. And yet, those who live into their 10th decade often do so with a sense of enough, not abundance in material goods, but sufficiency in resources, community, and purpose. Imagine a market square in a coastal town in Greece. A grandfather sells honey from his own bees, while his neighbor, a widow, offers olives cured with lemon and thyme. Coins pass hands slowly. There is no rush, no urgency, no towering display of consumption, and yet, everything needed is present. This is functional simplicity, and it fosters an inner and outer peace that is often missing from modern industrialized life. Numerous studies support what these scenes suggest. Financial stress, especially chronic, low-level worry about housing, health costs, or food correlates with inflammation, disrupted sleep, high blood pressure, and impaired immune function. It also ages us neurologically, accelerating declines in memory and cognitive speed. The mere act of worrying about scarcity takes up precious cognitive bandwidth, reducing one's capacity for planning, emotional regulation, and creative thought. Now, picture instead a life paced not by the clock but by the sun. In large communities, work does not end abruptly with retirement, nor does it revolve around accumulating for the distant future. Rather, the economy of aging is local, circular, intergenerational. Grandparents care for children, while their own sons and daughters tend fields or businesses. Meals are shared. Homes are often passed down. The pressures of a nuclear, isolated economic model are softened by a web of mutual care. What emerges from these arrangements is not only emotional support, but a subtle physiological buffer. Older adults in such systems are more likely to remain physically active, mentally stimulated, and socially engaged. The act of being needed for a story, for a hand, for a recipe, becomes a form of economic participation that money can't quantify, but the body understands intuitively. In Western society, where aging is too often tied to financial uncertainty, the science suggests that even modest interventions, guaranteed income, universal healthcare access, affordable housing for elders can yield profound benefits. Countries with strong social safety nets often report not only longer life expectancy, but also higher rates of satisfaction in old age. The heart beats slower when it is not pressed upon by worry. The breath becomes easier when tomorrow feels accounted for. Even in your own space, the architecture of enough can be cultivated. Perhaps you live modestly, but the pantry is never empty. You may not be wealthy, but you have time to rest, to move freely, to choose how your hours unfold. These seemingly small freedoms, what economists might call non-monetary assets, are deeply protective. They are part of what gerontologists now refer to as the compressed morbidity model. A life that is long, yes, but also healthy right up to its final seasons. Imagine sitting in a wooden chair outside a humble home. The air cool, a cup of tea warming your hand. Around you, the world moves slowly. There are things to do, yes, but none that demand more than you have. This is a form of peace, economic peace, and it is not purchased, but shaped by rhythm, restraint, and relationship. So, as you continue this journey, consider the rhythm of enough as a form of medicine. Not scarcity, not indulgence, but the quiet, reassuring hum of sufficiency. When you have what you need, and your body trusts that the next day will come with shelter, warmth, and purpose, you live longer, and you live better. Now let us turn to something less measurable, but deeply human. The way beauty touches our lives, and how aesthetic experience contributes to both well-being and longevity. Art, in its many forms, is not a luxury for the few. It is a biological balm, an evolutionary companion to our emotional lives. Imagine the slow brushing of color across paper, a watercolor sky, forming in delicate hues of blue and gold. Feel the quiet precision in placing thread through cloth, the rhythm of needle and hand, stitch after patient stitch. Or close your eyes and hear the distant notes of a cello, low and rich like earth itself. Across cultures and across time, those who live long lives often find themselves in regular contact with art, not as observers, but as participants. Scientific research now affirms what the soul has long known. Creating and engaging with art strengthens cognitive function, reduces stress hormones, and increases serotonin and dopamine neurochemicals associated with emotional balance and vitality. For older adults, even simple, creative activities, singing, arranging flowers, have been shown to reduce depression, enhance memory, and improve physical coordination. In Japan, the tradition of ikebana, or flower arranging, teaches not only beauty but presence. The arrangement is not simply decoration, it is meditation. A leaf tilted forward, a blossom gently bowed. The artist communes with the seasons, with time, with impermanence. In Sardinia, women gather to embroider linens with inherited patterns, each thread a story, each motif a kind of unspoken prayer. These actions, though small, represent a deep commitment to living gracefully. Now, think of visual environment, how space influences the nervous system. Long-lived communities often dwell in places of gentle visual order: clay walls, winding paths, gardens heavy with jasmine and sage. No glaring neon, no harsh edges. These soft, natural environments are known to activate the parasympathetic system, encouraging rest, digestion, and emotional regulation. You can bring this into your own world. Consider your space: a windowsill with 3 stones and a leaf, a photograph you've always loved, a favorite chair bathed in afternoon light. These aesthetic anchors, placed intentionally, whisper to the nervous system, "You are safe here." In recent years, physicians have begun prescribing arts-based therapies to support aging. In the UK, some patients receive tickets to concerts or drawing classes as part of their treatment plans. In Scandinavian elder homes, residents participate in music groups or sculpture workshops. These are not frivolous diversions. They are cared for through color, sound, and form. And what of those who say, "But I am not creative"? Listen gently to that voice. The truth is, creativity is not performance. It is not comparison. It is not what others see. It is presence, made visible. Even preparing a meal with Intonesis. Sliced fig fanned across a plate. Steam rising from warm breadies, a kind of living poem. Let your mind settle here for a while, in a place where beauty is not rare, but woven into daily ritual. A scarf tied with care. A poem copied into a notebook. A song hummed while washing dishes. These small gestures awaken the aesthetic brain, and that brain, when tended, supports a longer, richer life. So, in the pursuit of longevity, do not neglect the inner landscape, that quiet, colorful terrain shaped by beauty, pattern, and play. The soul ages more slowly when it is allowed to marvel. Imagine a hand resting on another's, not in urgency, not in correction, just resting. The simple act of being near, skin to skin, with warmth passing between. This is touch, one of the oldest languages the human body knows, and one of the most quietly powerful in infancy. Touch is our first connection to life: cradling, rocking, being held close. And yet, as we age, touch often becomes more rare, more distant, sometimes even absent. But for those who live long, full lives, touch and closeness remain not just present, but essential. Scientific studies have shown that physical affection, hugs, hand-holding, even gentle massage lowers blood pressure, reduces cortisol, and triggers the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin, in turn, calms the nervous system, boosts immunity, and promotes a sense of trust and security. Even a few seconds of meaningful touch can shift the body out of fight or flight and into a state of healing and rest. Now imagine an elderly couple walking slowly along a path, fingers interlaced. Their steps may not be quick, but the contact between them carries decades of unspoken conversation. Or picture a grandchild curling into the crook of a grandmother's arm as she tells a story she's told 100 times. These moments are not decorative, they are deeply physiological, nourishing not just the heart, but the entire body. In long-lived cultures, touch is embedded in daily life. In Okinawa, friends greet each other with gentle embraces, elders pat children's heads with affection, and communal bathing is still practiced in some regions, where closeness is normalized, not avoided. In Sardinia, families gather in tight kitchens and crowded tables, brushing shoulders and passing bread with easy intimacy. But touch does not always require another person. Even self-touch, such as a calming hand over the chest, warm compresses at the end of the day, or gentle stretching in the morning, tells the body, "You are here, and you are cared for." The modern world, with its pace and fragmentation, can sometimes erode these connections. Yet the desire for meaningful relationships remains deeply embedded in us. And cultivating them, even in small ways, has profound benefits. Simple act sharing, a meal, listening without judgment, offering a smile can release calming neurochemicals and build resilience beyond social ties. Purpose also plays a pivotal role in longevity. Having a sense of meaning or a reason to rise each day correlates with lower risk of heart disease, better mental health, and increased lifespan. This sense of purpose is not necessarily tied to grand achievements. It can be as simple as caring for a garden, nurturing family, or contributing to the community. Purpose and connection often intertwine. Many elders find renewed meaning through volunteering, mentoring, or participating in cultural traditions. These activities reinforce their role in the social fabric, providing a steady source of motivation and joy. As you listen now, imagine the heartbeat of these qualities: wisdom, compassion, connection pulsing gently within your own chest. Feel their warmth spreading through your being, a quiet but profound nourishment that supports every cell. The journey of longevity is as much about cultivating these inner landscapes as it is about diet, exercise, or medicine. It invites us to slow down, to reflect, to open our hearts, and to build bridges both within ourselves and with others. Allow these thoughts to settle softly as you continue to rest. Carried by the calm rhythm of your breath, we arrive now at the sacred rhythm of movement, not the hurried, heart-pounding urgency of youth's striving, but the slow, deliberate motion of a body that knows its age, honors its history, and continues to reach, not in speed, but in grace. To live long is to live in the body, and to live well is to remain in relationship with that body, to speak its language, to heed its signals, and to trust its wisdom, even as its shape, strength, and certainty evolve with the years. From the rolling hills of Sardinia to the terraced gardens of Ikaria, from the rice paddies of Okinawa to the mountain villages of Loma Linda, there is a common thread among those who live long, gentle, consistent movement. Not exercise in the way modern culture often defines it, not reps, not timers, not machines, but rather the movement woven naturally into the fabric of the day. A Sardinian shepherd walks miles each morning before the sun crests the ridge. A Japanese grandmother tends her vegetable plot with slow, crouched patience. An elder in Costa Rica sweeps her tiled porch with careful strokes. These are not workouts. They are rituals of presence, expressions of engagement with the world, and they carry the body gently across the long arc of life. What these forms of movement have in common is not intensity, but rhythm, purpose, and integration. They align with circadian rhythms, connect the body to the earth beneath it, and encourage balance, both literal and metaphorical. Scientific studies consistently show that such low-intensity, high-frequency activity supports cardiovascular health, improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and preserves joint mobility. It is, quite literally, the oil that keeps the machine running smoothly. But beyond mechanics, movement is also a message to the self and to the cells that life is ongoing. When we move, even slowly, we stimulate the lymphatic system, that silent cleansing river that runs beneath the skin, carrying away waste and bolstering immunity. We deliver oxygen to the tissues, keeping the brain alert and the muscles supple. We trigger the release of endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, and serotonin, that steadying balm for mood and sleep. And perhaps more importantly, we engage in an active embodiment of anchoring ourselves in the now, for the body is always present. It cannot live in tomorrow or yesterday. When we walk, stretch, dance, or kneel, we become aligned with this moment, and in that alignment, we find peace. Now imagine, if you will, the quiet practice of morning stretching. The room still dim, the light just beginning to press against the edges of the window. You rise not to chase the day, but to greet it. Arms overhead, a breath in, a roll of the shoulders, a bend at the waist. Not to test flexibility, but to listen. Each movement is a conversation. Here I am. How do I feel today? Tai Chi practitioners speak of this, of movement as meditation in motion. The slow circling of arms, the gentle shifting of weight, the eyes soft, the breath slow. Research has shown that such mindful movement improves balance, reduces the risk of falls, supports respiratory function, and even enhances cognitive clarity. But perhaps its greatest gift is its ability to return us to ourselves and breath, always, the breath. With each inhale, oxygen enters not just the lungs, but the bloodstream, the muscles, the brain. With each exhale, carbon dioxide and tension are released. Most of us, in the rush of daily life, breathe shallowly. But those who breathe deeply, consciously, live differently. They rest more easily. They digest more thoroughly. They feel more clearly. The diaphragm, a broad muscle beneath the lungs, moves like a bellows. When used fully, it massages the internal organs, encourages lymph flow, and supports the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, digestion, and healing. In studies, diaphragmatic breathing has been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, and enhance heart rate variability, a key marker of resilience and longevity. In India, yogis have long known this. In Okinawa, the simple act of sitting and focusing on breath is taught to children and practiced by the very old. In the Andes, herders pause between tasks and draw in mountain air as a form of grounding. These are not medical procedures. They are invitations, and so too are the body's requests. A stiff shoulder asking to be rolled, a lower back asking for heat, knees that prefer the support of earth rather than concrete. These small messages, when ignored, become diseased. But when heard and honored, they become conversation, a gentle duet between form and spirit, even in the final chapters of life. When movement slows and energy wanes, there is still dance to be had. A rocking chair becomes a metronome, a hand lifted to stroke a pet's fur, eyes that trace the arc of birds outside the window. The body, however it changes, remains capable of presence, and presence is health. It may be helpful to remember that exercise does not have to be separate. It can be part of living. Carry your groceries with intention. Take the stairs not as a challenge, but as a rhythm. Kneel to plant seeds, reach to hang laundry, sway to music while stirring soup. These are acts of care, for both self and world, and the body recognizes them as such. And for those who struggle with injury, limitation, or fatigue, know this. Stillness, too, is a form of movement. The simple act of laying flat, breathing deep, visualizing the muscles engaging, even this stimulates neural pathways, encourages circulation, and reminds the self that all is not lost. The body does not demand perfection. It asks only for attention. In some traditions, breath and movement are accompanied by sound. The hum of a chant, the soft exhale of a sacred word. This, too, supports health. The vibrations stimulate the vagus nerve, encourage relaxation, and create resonance, literally tuning the body like an instrument. And perhaps that is the most beautiful metaphor of all. The body is an instrument, not something to be pushed or sculpted, but something to be tuned, gently, regularly. With love. As this segment draws to its close, consider rising, if only in your imagination. Stretch the arms, roll the ankles. Take a long, slow breath in, and let it go. Not because you must, but because you can. Because you are alive, and in movement, no matter how small, you honor that life. Now we turn to a subject as old as civilization itself. Food, not just as fuel or sustenance, but as a sacred act, as ritual, as memory, as love translated into matter. For those who live long, truly long, food is not a formula. It is not numbers on a package, or rules shouted across internet pages. It is, instead, a relationship between body and earth, between history and hunger, between the individual and the community. The meal, for them, is not a transaction. It is a conversation in nearly every longevity hotspot on Earth, from the Nicoyan Peninsula in Costa Rica to the highlands of Sardinia. Food is grown close, prepared slowly, shared with intention, and eaten without hurry. There is a rhythm, not of restriction, but of reverence. Let us begin with the soil. Imagine a small plot of land outside a humble home, perhaps in Greece, perhaps in southern Japan. Here, an elder kneels fingers in the dark soil, planting leafy greens, herbs, onions. This act is not a chore. It is a dialogue with the earth. A promise: if I care for you, you will care for me. And indeed, science supports what these traditions embody. Locally grown, seasonal, minimally processed foods carry more nutrients, vitamins, polyphenols, and antioxidants. The leafy greens, rich in folate. The purple sweet potatoes, high in anthocyanins. The lentils, beans, and legumes full of fiber and plant proteins. But it is not only what is eaten, it is how meals are rarely consumed alone. In Ikaria, families gather under trellised roofs. In Okinawa, elders form small social groups called moe, where food is shared among friends for life. In Loma Linda, community potlucks are a weekly ritual, abundant with plant-based dishes, laughter, and scripture. There is also the language of movement, of the body expressing through action. Dancing slowly in the kitchen, gardening with bare hands in the soil, practicing yoga or tai chi in the early light. These are forms of intimacy with us from within. Movement awakens proprioception, the body's awareness of itself, and with it, a quiet joy in being alive. And then there is intimacy in conversations, sitting close, looking into someone's eyes without needing to speak, sharing a memory, listening deeply. These are also forms of closeness, and in a world that often pulls us apart through screens and schedules, they matter deeply. Studies have shown that older adults who maintain physical connection, whether through social touch or therapeutic care, are more likely to experience lower rates of depression, anxiety, and loneliness, all factors that are increasingly linked with biological aging. One long-term study found that touch deprivation was associated with earlier mortality, while regular affectionate contact was a predictor of both health span and lifespan. Imagine then, building a life where touch is a daily ritual, not a forgotten luxury. Perhaps it's a morning stretch in the sunlight, or the feel of warm water over your skin. Perhaps it's offering someone your hand without needing a reason. So much of longevity is hidden in plain sight, not in rare herbs or perfect routines, but in the ancient, wordless language of presence, contact, and care. To be touched is to be remembered, and the body, when remembered, begins to bloom again. Close your eyes for a moment, and imagine the first time you noticed a tree truly breathing. Perhaps you were small then, lying on your back in the grass, watching the top of a tree sway gently against the sky. The leaves shimmered in the windlight, catching their undersides as they turned, folded, returned. You may not have known it then, but in that moment, your body was responding to something deeper than scenery. It was returning home, across nearly every culture, and throughout history. Human beings have lived in close relationship with the natural world, and in the study of longevity, nature emerges not as an accessory to life, but as one of its deepest medicines. Today, as we follow this gentle path through the science of long life, let us slow our pace and step barefoot into the forest of evidence that shows how green spaces, natural rhythms, and our biological need for wildness play a profound role in the way we age. In Japan, there is a practice known as Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. It is not a literal bath, but rather a conscious, mindful walk through wooded areas, one that engages all five senses. The practice encourages participants to leave behind their devices, to silence their inner chatter, and to notice the scent of moss, the sound of a bird's wing, the feeling of bark beneath a hand. This is not exercise, it is presence. Researchers studying forest bathing have found that as little as 20 minutes in a wooded area can lower cortisol levels by up to 16%, slow heart rate, reduce blood pressure, and increase natural killer cell activity, one of the body's key mechanisms for fighting infection and cancer. These effects persist for days after the walk ends. The forest, it turns out, is not just beautiful. It is biochemically nourishing. But this relationship goes deeper still. Humans evolved in direct connection to the natural world for millennia. We woke with the sun, ate what the land produced, walked on uneven ground, and slept beneath the arc of the stars. These rhythms are etched into our biology. And yet, in modern life, many of us spend more than 90% of our time indoors of fun, under artificial light, on flat, sterile surfaces, breathing recirculated air. What happens when we are deprived of nature? The data is sobering. Lack of access to green spaces has been linked to increased inflammation, higher rates of anxiety and depression, reduced concentration, and even shorter telomere length, a cellular marker associated with aging. Urban living without greenery has been shown to speed up cognitive decline, while regular exposure to trees and parks appears to protect against it. Let us pause and breathe that in. Trees, quite literally, help us think more clearly and live longer. In the blue zones, those rare regions of the world where people routinely live past 100, we see the intimate weaving of life and land. In the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, elders rise with the dawn, their homes built with open air and cross breezes. They walk unhurried on dusty footpaths to collect eggs, fetch water, tend to banana plants. Their feet touch the ground. The sun warms their skin. The land, in return, offers food, stability, and a sense of belonging. In Icaria, Greece, gardens cling to steep hillsides, terraced by hand over generations. The older adults who live there still till their soil, prune olive trees, and gather wild herbs, oregano, sage, mint, not just for cooking, but as part of their daily rhythm of natural pharmacy. In fact, many of the herbs consumed regularly in these communities contain anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds now known to support heart and brain health. To age well, it seems, is to return to the wild, not to abandon civilization, but to rethread ourselves into the fabric of living landscapes. And this rethreading doesn't require a forest or farm. Even modest exposure, walk through a city park, a few pots of herbs on a windowsill, a sunrise viewed through a bedroom window has measurable effects on mood, immunity, and sleep. Let us explore sleep again. Now seen through nature's lens, the human circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates nearly every hormone, repair cycle, and sleep phases, tightly linked to the natural day-night cycle. In urban environments, exposure to artificial light in the evening delays melatonin production and disrupts sleep quality. But studies have shown that just one weekend of camping away from screens, aligned with sunrise and sunset, can completely reset the circadian rhythm, returning the body to its optimal state. Imagine lying in a tent at dusk, the sky growing darker with each breath. There is no noise but the soft wind in the pines, the occasional owl. Your body begins to cool, to still. Melatonin rises naturally, and when you sleep, it is deep, undisturbed. This is not romanticism. It is physiology at rest. Our bodies are not confused by nature. They recognize it. Even the microbiome, the complex internal ecosystem we discussed earlier, responds to the natural world. Exposure to soil, to animals, to plant diversity, especially in childhood, cultivates a broader and more resilient community of microbes. But even in later life, gardening, walking barefoot, or touching bark can reintroduce beneficial microbes that influence everything from digestion to inflammation to mental health. Then there is the sound of nature, the ambient rustle of wind through trees, the murmur of water over stones. Unlike urban noise, which increases stress and impairs cognition, natural soundscapes have been shown to calm the limbic system, slow breathing, and reduce levels of the stress hormone cortisol. In hospital settings, patients recover faster when they can hear birdsong or the trickle of a fountain. This is not a coincidence. It is the body remembering its place. And what of the sky? In many long-lived cultures, time spent outdoors brings the body into relationship with light. Early morning sunlight on the skin stimulates vitamin D production, critical for immune function, bone density, and mood regulation. Deficiency in this hormone-like vitamin has been linked to increased mortality in older adults. And yet, the remedy requires no prescription, just gentle light on skin, early in the day, unfiltered. As we age, our tendency may be to retreat inward. But the data and the ancestral memory in our bones suggests the opposite. That contact with the outdoors is not optional, but deeply medicinal. You might begin simply. A plant in your room, a walk at dusk, the smell of rain through a cracked window. Each of these is a thread retying you to the earth and to the longevity it supports. Finally, let us reflect on what the natural world teaches about aging itself. Trees do not fear winter. Rivers do not rush to their destination. The oldest mountains do not apologize for their erosion. In nature, aging is not decline, it is transformation, weathering, ripening. An elder tree stands not because it resisted time, but because it grew with it, yielded to wind, adapted to drought, rooted deeper when the ground cracked. So too, the human life. When we live in relationship with the natural world, we begin to see our own aging differently. We see it not as a departure from vitality, but as a slow and sacred unfolding. Let this thought settle into you like mist, that longevity is not won through effort alone. It is invited, supported, encouraged by trees, by dirt, by sky. It is made easier by belonging, by slowness, by rejoining rhythms far older than our own. The act of eating together, of breaking bread with others, triggers powerful emotional and physiological responses. It lowers stress hormones, increases oxytocin, encourages mindful eating. The brain registers safety, belonging, rhythm. When meals are shared, eaten slowly, and taken with gratitude, the digestive system responds differently. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest and digestion, is activated. Saliva production increases. Nutrient absorption improves. Blood sugar levels rise and fall more gently. Contrast this with solitary, rushed, distracted, eating meals consumed in cars, at desks, under fluorescent lights, between appointments. The body registers not nourishment, but threat. And threat, whether real or perceived, shuts digestion down. It is not just what we eat, then, but the state we are in when we eat it, that determines how deeply we are nourished. Across cultures, longevity diets tend to follow certain broad patterns. They are mostly plant-based, with vegetables, grains, legumes, and fruits forming the core. Meat is present, but sparingly, often reserved for Sundays or holidays. Dairy, when consumed, is often fermented like yogurt or kefir. Sugar is rare and usually homemade, like honey or dried fruit in small amounts. Portions are modest, not due to restriction, but from a habit of listening. The Okinawan phrase, hara hachibu, which translates to, eat until you are 80% full, reflects this mindful approach, not a rule, but a rhythm. And yet, these meals are rarely plain. Herbs, spices, oils, all used generously. The turmeric in Indian dals, with its anti-inflammatory compound, curcumin. The rosemary in Mediterranean stews, rich in carnosic acid, known to support brain health. The garlic, onion, cinnamon, fennel, each with unique medicinal properties. Each a layer of wisdom added to every dish. There is joy, too. Long-lived people take pleasure in their food. They savor, laugh, celebrate. They drink wine, often red, in moderation and with meals. In Sardinia, they toast with cannonau, a dark wine high in polyphenols. But even more important than what's in the glass is who is raising it beside them. Let us imagine now a slow afternoon in a qaria. An elder woman prepares a dish of simmered greens, wild herbs gathered earlier that morning. She adds olive oil, lemon, a touch of salt. She hums as she cooks, not for show, but from contentment. Her neighbors arrive. One brings bread, another olives, another figs. They sit together, not watching the clock. Stories are exchanged between bites. The meal stretches into hours, like a conversation that never really ends. Here, eating is sacred, not because of perfection, but because of participation. Because it is shared. Because it is real. Even the act of preparing food is an embodiment of care. Chopping vegetables, stirring soups, folding dough. These are forms of moving meditation. The hands remember what the mind forgets. The body relaxes into rhythm. There is, too, the ancient power of fermented foods. Kimchi, miso, sauerkraut, yogurt, all teeming with beneficial bacteria. These microbes often pass down from family. Recipes colonize the gut, support digestion, boost immunity, and even influence mood and cognition. Modern science calls this the gut-brain axis, a complex communication network that links the health of the intestines to the health of the brain. In this way, food becomes medicine, not in capsules, but in spoonfuls. Not prescribed, but prepared. With love. And perhaps more subtle than nutrients or microbes, is the sense of enough. Those who live long do not often speak of cutting back or eliminating. Instead, they speak of balance, of listening, of seasonal rhythms. There is fasting, gentle, not punishing. In some traditions, a day or two a week is spent eating simply, or not at all. This gives the body time to reset, the mind time to clarify, intermittent fasting, or time-restricted eating, now supported by research, shows promise in reducing oxidative stress, improving metabolic function, and supporting cellular repair through autophagy, the body's natural recycling process. Yet for many elders, these practices arise not from scientific understanding, but from custom, from ritual, from respect for cycles. So tonight, as you reflect on your own habits, consider not just what you eat, but how you eat. Who do you eat with? What do you eat from? How does it smell? How do you feel afterward? There is no perfect diet, but there is this moment, and the next, in which you can choose to eat with awareness, with pleasure, and with gratitude. Let your table become a sanctuary. Let your plate carry memory. Let your hands prepare what your body will welcome. And let every meal be a chance to say, I am here, I am nourished, I am part of this world. There comes a moment in every long life, and often in many moments, when logic, science, and planning reach their limits. When pain visits, when loss stands at the door, when the map blurs and direction slips from the mind's grasp. And in those moments, those who live long do not always rely on answers. They lean into something deeper, something less seen, more felt, something called faith. Not always religion, not always doctrine, but spirituality in its broadest, most inclusive sense, a belief in something larger than oneself, a thread of meaning that persists through hardship and joy alike. And it turns out that this invisible thread, this capacity to hold belief, is a profound and measurable pillar of longevity. Let us begin gently with the oldest truth. Humans are meaning makers. We search for pattern in the stars, intention in the wind, guidance in silence. From the first cave paintings to modern prayers, from whispered mantras to candlelit vigils, we have always reached toward something beyond, and that reaching has shaped not just culture, but the chemistry of our health. Scientific studies across diverse populations, including the blue zones, consistently show that those who identify as spiritual or religious tend to live longer, report higher levels of life satisfaction, and recover more quickly from illness. Why? Part of the answer lies in stress modulation. Prayer, meditation, rituals, and belief practices engage the parasympathetic nervous system, slowing the heart rate, lowering cortisol levels, and inducing states of calm. This is not merely psychological, it is biological tranquility. Repeated engagement in spiritual practice physically trains the body to respond with steadiness, rather than alarm. Consider the act of prayer. Whether recited aloud or whispered within, rhythmic prayer slows breath, centers attention, and induces what researchers call the relaxation response, a state first described by Dr. Herbert Benson in the 1970s. Now well documented in cardiovascular and neurological studies. This response is associated with lowered blood pressure, improved immune markers, and decreased inflammation, all key factors in healthy aging. But more than the act is the belief behind it. Faith offers structure in times of chaos. It provides narrative in the face of mystery. When illness strikes or a loved one passes, faith can frame suffering not as meaningless pain, but as part of a larger unfolding, a test, a transformation, a return. In Sardinia, elders speak of divine timing. In Okinawa, the ancestral spirits are honored daily with offerings. In Loma Linda, faith in God shapes not just worship, but daily behavior, from Sabbath rest to dietary choices. In Ikaria, the Orthodox calendar structures the rhythm of feast and fast, work and worship. These patterns provide a deep sense of order, a psychological scaffolding that protects the mind from despair. Spirituality also connects. Faith communities, churches, mosques, temples, sanghas, provide not only shared beliefs, but shared lives. Gatherings, festivals, charity work, study circles. These rituals reinforce belonging, encourage service, and foster mutual care. Social support, as we've explored, is perhaps the most powerful longevity elixir of all, and belief itself, even when practiced privately, acts as a kind of internal compass. It offers resilience. In one longitudinal study, elderly adults who reported high levels of spiritual well-being showed less cognitive decline over time. Another study found that those who regularly practiced religious rituals had stronger immune responses to vaccines. And in cancer patients, a sense of spiritual purpose correlated with reduced fatigue and better outcomes. Imagine now a quiet corner of a room, a simple altar, perhaps a candle, a feather, a photograph of an ancestor, or nothing at all. Just a chair, a breath, a pause. Here, the spiritual self comes forward, not to beg or plead, but to listen, to the body, to the silence, to the still, small voice that resides within every human being. It may not speak in words. It may come as a feeling, a knowing, a softness behind the ribs. This inner spiritual life, cultivated over decades, becomes an anchor in times of storm, a guide when all else fades. For some, this inner life is nourished through meditation. For others, through sacred texts. For some, in the garden. For others, on long walks, or while painting, or singing, or simply sitting under the stars. What matters is not the form, it is the connection to life, to mystery, to presence. Even the belief in a life after this life, however defined, offers comfort. It softens the fear of death. It reframes aging not as decline, but as transition, as a movement toward something more. Whether one believes in reincarnation, heaven, ancestral reunion, or simply the return to nature's cycle, these beliefs ease existential tension and encourage peaceful acceptance. But spirituality does not only concern the future, it also transforms the present. Through gratitude, forgiveness, humility, awe, the spiritual self engages with the world in ways that lighten the body and soften the mind. Let us pause on gratitude. The daily act of naming blessings, even small ones, changes the brain. MRI scans show that gratitude practice increases gray matter density in areas associated with empathy and decision-making. It reduces symptoms of depression, improves sleep, and increases heart rate variability. In elders, gratitude predicts better self-rated health and lower inflammation. Likewise, forgiveness, a spiritual practice in every tradition, frees the body from chronic tension. Resentment is a weight carried in the shoulders, the chest, the gut. When released, blood pressure drops. Muscles unclench. The immune system revives. Forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. It is the act of loosening one's own grip on pain, and that loosening allows healing. These practices, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion, are not luxuries. They are technologies of the soul, ancient and evidence-based. They help us live longer, yes, but also better. So tonight, consider your own spiritual life, not in terms of labels, but in sensation. What brings you peace? Where do you go when you need guidance? What practice, however small, might you return to tomorrow? Light a candle, listen to silence. Write a line to the sky, let this be enough. Let it be sacred, and let it be yours. As we near the final corners of this quiet journey through longevity, we arrive at something perhaps more elusive than diet, sleep, or even belief. We arrive at what remains when all else slows, the echo of one's life, and the gentle courage to release it. In nearly every conversation with those who live past the average years, who stretch beyond expectation into their 9th or 10th decade, one encounters not only their habits and histories, but their legacy. Not always in grand terms. Not always in monuments or biographies. Often it's something smaller, quieter, a recipe passed down, a garden that still grows where their hands once planted, a phrase repeated by grandchildren, a kindness remembered only by one. Legacy is not only about what we leave behind, it's about how we are remembered while still alive, how we live in others, in their memories and mannerisms, in their courage, in their warmth. There is growing evidence that a sense of legacy building, a focus on contributing beyond the self, is a vital psychological pillar of longevity. Psychologist Erik Erikson called this generativity, the instinct, especially in later life, to nurture the next generation, to offer wisdom, to plant seeds, to build something that will outlive you, not because of ego, but because of love. In communities of long-lived elders, legacy is not a one-time act. It's woven into daily life. A woman teaching her daughter how to prepare herbs for winter. a grandfather showing a child how to tie fishing knots, a retired schoolteacher who continues to mentor young readers each week. These are acts of transfer, not of wealth, but of worth. Science supports this. Older adults who engage in mentoring or volunteer roles often show reduced depression, slower cognitive decline, and increased life satisfaction. Their immune function improves. Their sense of identity is reinforced. They are not fading, they are flowing outward. And alongside this sense of legacy lives another, seemingly contrasting but deeply allied force. Laughter, yes, laughter. For what is longevity if not a chance to enjoy being alive? In every culture that boasts centenarians, you will find stories of humor, jokes shared over bread, playful teasing between siblings, a sparkle in the eyes of those who no longer care what others think. These elders laugh, not at others, but with life. At its strangeness, at its tenderness, at its contradictions. Laughter, we now know, isn't merely emotional, it's physiological. A genuine laugh increases oxygen intake, stimulates the heart and lungs, and activates, even briefly, the brain's pleasure centers. It reduces stress hormones, relaxes muscles, and increases pain tolerance. In fact, the presence of positive affect, joy, amusement, warmth, has been linked to lower inflammation markers and longer telomeres. Put simply, those who laugh live longer. But there is something more important than statistics. Laughter gives us lightness, and lightness is what allows us to bear the gravity of age, not by denying it, but by rising gently above its heaviest parts. In Okinawa, elders often sit in circles, trading stories that end in belly laughs. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, it is not uncommon to find a 90-year-old man cracking jokes while playing cards. In Ikaria, Greece, music and dancing are woven into even the most ordinary evenings. Laughter, movement, rhythm. They are reminders that age is not the absence of fun. It is simply a new texture of it, and so we come at last to the softest of all longevity's lessons. The art of letting go, not of dreams, not of joy, but of clinging. Of the illusion that we can or must control all things. Of the bitterness that life hasn't gone as planned. Of the small resentments that gather like dust in the corners of the heart. Those who live long tend, more often than not, to be soft. Not weak, not defeated, but yielding, like water around stone. They do not fight the aging of their hands. They do not curse the slowness of their steps. They welcome it, even if quietly, even if with a sigh. Because they have come to know that resistance is not strength, acceptance is. This does not mean resignation. It means readiness, a readiness to enter each day, and eventually, each ending with eyes open, hands unclenched, heart unguarded. There is a phrase among elders in certain cultures, when it is time, I will go smiling. This is not nihilism, it is grace. It is knowing that you have loved, that you have mattered, that you have given something, even a small thing, to someone else. That your name, even if never famous, will echo gently in some hallway, in someone's memory, in the wind, to cultivate. Longevity is not simply to live long. It is to live well enough that when the time comes to rest fully, finally, there is nothing left to hold. Tonight, as you rest, consider not your bucket list, but your blessing list. What have you already lived? What laughter still rings in your memory? Who remembers your stories? What small kindnesses trail behind your name? There is time still. Time to plant one more seed, to tell one more story, to sit quietly and let your breath soften and smile. Absolutely. Here is the final, concluding segment of your immersive, calming sleep story. And so we come to the closing of our long, quiet walk through the science and soul of longevity. Not with a bang, not with a revelation, but with a breath, slow and full. A pause, a gentle turning inward, toward the part of you that knows life, in all its layers and lengths, is not about how much time we possess, but how we dwell within it. Over these hours together, we have wandered through the gardens of long life, through sleep's tender repair, through the steady rhythm of movement, through meals made sacred by slowness, through belief and belonging, and the invisible threads of meaning and memory that hold it all. We have watched the sun rise in Okinawa, stood beside a grandmother cooking lentils in a clay pot in Sardinia. We have followed a shepherd's careful steps across stone paths, listened to the breath of a monk as he knelt in silence, heard laughter rise from shared tables under grapevines in Icaria, and perhaps most of all, we have discovered that long life is not a formula, but a feeling, a way of being with what is, not fighting the wrinkles, but honoring the stories they hold, not counting the steps, but savoring the ones that bring us near to others, not fearing the quiet, but entering it as one enters a sacred space. The people who live long really live, are not necessarily stronger, or luckier, or more disciplined, but they are often more present, more willing to stay soft in a world that hardens, more ready to let go of what no longer serves, more inclined to rise with the sun and sleep with the stars, to greet strangers, to forgive friends, to walk a little slower and smile a little sooner. Science tells us of the cells and molecules that shape aging, and these truths matter. They build the foundation. But above the foundation is something science cannot fully measure, the texture of a life, the feeling of having lived, not just survived. That texture is woven from small things, from the cup of tea shared without rush, from the quiet prayers said in worn slippers, from the hand held at the right time, the forgiveness whispered, the seed planted, the meal cooked, the joke told again and again and again. Legacy is not always in buildings or books. Sometimes, it's just a look, a rhythm passed on in the way someone pours water, and how they rest their hand on the table. You may not know the names of your ancestors, but you carry their echoes in your gestures, in your preferences, even in your dreams. And one day, someone will carry yours. As this story folds itself closed, you may find that nothing needs to be done, that the lesson of a long life is simply this: to live as if it matters, gently, again and again. So let the breath move easily now. Let the rhythm of your heart slow to the pace of stars. Let your limbs grow heavy, like branches after rain. Let sleep find you, not as escape, but as return to the deepest part of you, where time has no teeth, and the body, in its wisdom, remembers how to heal. The journey is not over, but this chapter has ended, and you, gentle traveler, you have listened. Well, rest now. You are part of a long story, and tonight, it holds you good night.